I'm Monica Collins. I'm a journalist. I live in Belmont. I'm on the board of the Belmont Media Center. And every month, I host Live with Will Brownsberger, Office Hours Live with Will Brownsberger. And tonight's our night to go live, ask Will many questions. We hope you'll call in. The number will be on the screen. And Will, hi.
Hello.
It's been a long time since
It
we've
has.
done
We've had
this.
a little gap here,
We had a teeny little gap, but now we're back.
which was due to my being tied up
Yes.
in the House of Representatives the last
Yes.
night we were supposed to be on, which was a couple of weeks ago.
That you made big news that night. You passed some legislation to help us cash-strapped Massachusetts citizens.
I guess that's the night it's all run together for me.
Yes.
Okay.
What you passed that night had to do with businesses in Massachusetts and getting more money out of them, but it's since been revealed that maybe you didn't really pass that.
Well, these issues are awfully complicated. I don't like this issue because it is so complicated, and the information about it is so murky. The issue of corporate taxation.
Right.
The issue of what will be the revenue consequences of different decisions, how will they affect different businesses, will it have a negative impact on growth, will it generate revenue? So, economic growth is important, the health of business is important, new revenue for the Commonwealth is also important, and I find it a very difficult issue because of the murkiness of it. And so, in fact, it may be that one of the amendments that went through, which was explained as basically being something to simplify things and make enforcement less capricious, may have an effect of creating additional loopholes. That's what the papers have reported. It was, these are issues that leave us rather uncomfortable. So, the process though is that the House does something, the Senate has to do something, they're going to do something different, and then there will be a conference committee report, which will have the leisure to sort out what it's doing. Sometimes what happens on the floor gets a little confusing. But the conference committee should know what it's doing, and at the end of the day, we'll have the opportunity to vote on that one way or another. Well,
the fact remains, since we taped our last show, or did it live, and then it appeared on tape many times, the casino bill went down in crashing defeat, and you were one of the ones that voted against that.
Yes.
That was supposed to be an easy money get for our state, if that went through. What happens now? How do we get money? How do we get money to revive businesses and bring businesses into Belmont, North Cambridge, East Arlington? I mean, how do we do this?
Well, you're asking one of the deep questions, right?
I am asking one of the deep questions. Because sometimes, as a citizen, and a citizen that doesn't have much say or sway, I sometimes get very frustrated thinking, what do we do now?
I think, well, let's talk about that. I mean, I've given it a lot of thought. I mean, clearly this was an important issue and one which I took very seriously, took my vote very seriously on, and had the opportunity to think about it over a long period of time. The representatives had a lot of information available to them. There were a couple of different hearings held. There was lots of information distributed from both sides. Again, some of it very motivated information, designed to sell us one way or the other. So,
you were lobbied pretty heavily by the casino people, weren't you?
Well, I wasn't lobbied personally by casino representatives. I think they sort of spend their time lobbying a higher level of the of the institution. But I certainly was lobbied heavily by union members on the issue. Some members of the building trades unions, in particular, felt very strongly about this issue. Let me tell you how I came to my no vote on this issue, and I think respond in the course of that to a couple of things you specifically asked. Number one, I don't like the kind of politics that comes with the casino issue. Where in any type of issue where so much money is at stake on regulatory decisions, you end up with some pretty ugly politics. The players, the casino public relations people, they have their people digging out dirt on people who are against them. You saw the drip, drip, drip of negative stories about the speaker that went on for a couple of months there. That was all about the casinos. And just if we approve those casinos, it's not like the decision would be made. We'd be stuck with questions of, shall we have another one? Should we allow them to expand? Shall we give them a tax break? Shall we give them a tax increase? Are we getting enough revenue? And the casino politics would be a big, big part of this state for a long time, if not forever. And
that's an interesting point. I just want to interrupt you to follow up. Casino politics during that time, our governor vanished during that vote, and no one knew where he was. It was not casino politics that it later came out that he was in New York selling his book.
Correct.
And so there you go.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other question.
I'm not disputing you here, but
Yeah.
I'm just talking about maybe the whole gestalt around casinos and gambling is ugly.
Yeah, well, no, that's my belief, and I think it's also very distracting. I mean, when you say, okay, well, there's perhaps 20,000 permanent jobs at stake, well, that's very significant. I mean, that's the best reason to vote for this bill, in my mind, is the permanent, relatively low-skilled jobs, which would include more people in our economy. I think that's important. Mm-hmm. By the way, I think it's oversold because I think we'd be killing some businesses if we opened casinos, so there's some losses in that. And I also think some of those jobs would go to people who come in from out of state, who have the skills and the familiarity with the casino
industry.
Look
at the Big Dig. How many people came in from out of state for that?
Absolutely. So let's not completely fall for those numbers. But even if you believed those numbers, this is a 3 million job economy, and we have to grow that whole economy. 20,000 jobs is less than 1% change in that economy. We've lost, several 100,000 manufacturing jobs. We're focused on creating jobs in the sectors that do work well in Massachusetts: the life sciences sector, the clean energy sector, the high technology, information technology sector, financial services, tourism. We have some nice tourism venues in the state, which would suffer if we. The
movie industry. Hey,
now
that's
the movie
huge.
industry, that's right. The movie
that
is
huge.
It's
huge enough for the governor now to mention it a lot.
Yeah, it seems to be that this tax credit thing works. Does it pay for itself? That's a whole other question. But my point is this: is we in public life have a finite ability to do anything. I mean, we can only get so much done. If you watch the throughput of the institution, it is finite, and that's true at the town level. It's true at the state level. It's true at the federal level. And if you clutter that space with casino craziness, we're not going to do the things we need to do to grow the industries that have always been our bread and butter in this state. Not to mention health and education, which are really our big.
Well, that's a very good thing that you just said, and that's probably why many people admire you as a politician thinker, because that's a very thoughtful thing to say. That casinos fill that space with a lot of what Kurt Vonnegut used to call FOMA, that it doesn't really amount to much in the end.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't really accrue to the individual. It's not really based on deep kind of principles.
Yeah, and so it doesn't carry us where we really want to go in the end, which is we do want to have an economic development strategy for the state, and we get to that. I think one of the other big things for me about casinos is it's important to say when people talk about the casino issues. This is sort of a negative statement. It's not true that we'll have casinos no matter what we do, and therefore we should bring them in and get the revenue ourselves. That's one of the things you hear. That's one of the things that the casino proponents attempted to foist on people was that, look, the Indian tribes are going to get casinos. And what they should have said is the gambling operators who are using the Indian tribes are going to get casinos. But they're not. That's not the way the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act works. It is possible that they will get what you call Class 2 casinos, which only includes bingo, does not include slot machines, blackjack, the banking games where you're playing against the house. They're not real casinos, and they will never have the scope and scale. Although, again, the gambling advocates will tell you, well, it's bingo, it's not your mother's bingo and so forth. But it really is. It is, and it's very important to them to get the slot machines, and they won't get that without legislative approval. And the slot machines constitute 80 to 90% of the revenue in a casino. I mean, those are the machines that are programmed to press our buttons,
Literally.
The brain buttons that say, I want to do this
Right.
again, I want to do this again,
Right,
I want
right.
to do this again and again. You just keep people.
Requiring no skill, no talent, no nothing except sitting there pumping your quarters or your dollars or your $50 bills.
Absolutely. It's like having a needle in your arm. It's injecting a certain experience that the brain wants, and people keep doing it, and it does a lot of damage. So I'm glad we're not going to have those in major scale in this state, because I think they would have negative consequences and an increase in local gambling. That's another concern. I also don't like the environmental framing of this issue. I mean, it's destination resort casinos is taking, and it's an economic development, and it's an environmental issue too. Together, economic environment in the wrong sense. You're taking development out of our town centers, out of our cities. You're going
Right.
to put it out in the middle of nowhere.
Right,
First of all, that's bad for our cities and towns.
right.
It's going to kill the entertainment businesses that we're trying to develop in our cities and towns. Second, though, it makes no sense from a greenhouse, climate change standpoint to say, okay, let's all get in our cars and drive 50 to 100
Right.
miles out to the middle of no
To the
place to play
casino.
games, and then come back. That's not the kind of architecture for our state that anybody would recommend if they were thinking about the environmental consequences.
A very reasoned opinion about it all. Obviously it works against all of those things.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I feel pretty good about the vote, about taking a.
Did you get criticized at all for the vote?
Well, as I say, I think.
I mean, you were part of a huge mass that voted against it.
Well, sure, but there was a lot of pressure. No, I mean, the building trades feel very strongly about it, and I respect their desire to create building trades jobs, and I would have liked to do that for them. But so that's. Everything has a pro and con, and in the end of the day, the cons outweighed the pros for me. And one thing I think it's really important to say is the revenue thing is very much exaggerated. That people, the governor used numbers that, without getting into the whole story about why they're weak numbers, there's a lot of consensus among my colleagues that those numbers were overstated. And one of my colleagues, who's a thoughtful business guy, felt that he actually felt ultimately it could turn out to be a revenue negative situation for the Commonwealth. I don't think it's that bad. I think they would be revenue positive, but easy 400, easy 600 million. No, that's not what's going to happen on a net basis. When you factor in that likely our tax rates would not be as high as Duvall thought they could be. When you factor in that we would lose revenue from the lottery, because the casinos would compete with the
Right.
lottery. We have a big gambling operation in the state already. We would lose money from that. And the other thing is that this is not a static market situation. You got a lot of new casino businesses coming into picture in other states, which are going to take revenue from whatever we do. So the bottom line is, I don't think we lost anywhere near as much as people thought we did. And I think that a lot of other things we saved ourselves from. We're Massachusetts. We're health. We're education. We're sciences. Let Nevada be Nevada.
Oh, good slogan. Let Nevada be Nevada.
Yeah. No, I mean, we don't want to be Nevada.
But then, okay, let's just look at Belmont, North Cambridge, East Arlington, and we look at business development there.
Yeah.
Then that's what you're thinking of. That
Right.
is what you're charged by us, the voters,
Yeah.
to think about. And certainly a casino wouldn't have helped us at all.
No.
Um,
It would have hurt us.
It would have, yeah. No one would have come to Belmont to eat dinner if they were staying at a casino somewhere.
Right.
But what can we do to grow our businesses locally?
Well, that's an excellent question. I spent a lot of time thinking about that. I mean, I think there's a few things. And by the way, this is something that there's a consensus about this issue. I mean, if you really listen in any meeting on this subject, the same things get said. So what I'm doing is really reporting that consensus and respecting it. It sounds roughly right to me. Number one, we have to make it easier to site and construct facilities. The process of locating any facility that involves a new building is very, very difficult in Massachusetts. And in order to make that easier, I'm not saying we should cut red tape. I'm an environmentalist, and environmental issues remain a priority. But what we should do is plan and identify areas where we're willing to accept new business development and make it easy within those areas that we have concluded are environmentally sensible.
Such the overlay districts, right?
The overlay district in Cushing Square is an example of exactly that concept.
But then there's a guy who wants to develop there.
Yes, he does.
He wants to develop very badly, but he wants some gimmies for that development.
Yeah.
They're going to be voted on at town meeting.
Yes.
This coming Monday and
Yes.
Tuesday.
Yes.
But at least he has an idea. At least he's fighting for his idea. He's trying to put it out there.
Yeah.
Whether it passes or not, who knows?
Well, this is the kind of thing the town needs to do, and hopefully, that ultimately will work out in a way that's positive for the town. And the town needs to go through that same process in other parts of all up and down Trapella Road, in Belmont Center, on Pleasant Street. We need to push that a good deal further. Cambridge has done a very good job of doing that. I mean, some environmentalists would feel that it's done too good a job, or done it in a way that's not consistent with environmental priorities or neighborhood priorities. You get some disagreement about that. But it's indisputable that Cambridge has managed to attract a huge amount of development over the past decade.
And businesses. There's always businesses opening in Cambridge. It just seems like a very thriving city.
Yeah, and I think there's a direct connection between that and its fiscal health.
Mm-hmm.
Statewide, we also need to worry about the issue of housing, making housing more available, at lower costs. And when you talk about housing, that means housing with good quality municipal services that go with it. I'm a big believer in that what local government does is an important part of economic development.
Definitely.
I mean, you can find cheap housing in Massachusetts. There's no problem finding that. It's just finding it in a neighborhood that's got services and safety and so forth.
And Belmont has that to a certain extent.
Oh, absolutely, and to a great extent. I mean, it's a wonderful place.
Well, I've got to disagree with you on one aspect of that. Our roads are atrocious, and I know that this is a big issue coming up.
Yeah.
And I sound like a broken record here going on, but really, Belmont roads are now famous for being horrible, and that hurts business. Just doesn't hurt people's cars. It hurts business. So I'm interested about this roads override that's going. Is that going to be before town meeting or not?
I believe town meeting may be called upon to. I'm not sure what. Town meeting has to vote on a reserve account that's going to be created related to it. But the issue per se is really going to be before the voters.
In June.
I believe that's the date. Yeah.
But then the point was made, I guess, by the local newspaper that, well, who directs this effort then? None of the selectmen can. You can't.
Well, first of all, this is very important. The selectmen, contrary to what was said on the front page of the newspaper, that is absolutely legally totally incorrect.
Really?
Absolutely totally incorrect. The selectmen have...
Oh, well, thanks for pointing that out.
No, the selectmen have every right to, once they've put a question on the ballot, to call each other up on the phone and form a committee and lead on this issue. There is no question legally about that. That's
wow.
The statement that was made.
I believed everything I read in the newspaper.
Unfortunately, that statement was just plain incorrect, and I think there must have been some kind of misunderstanding somewhere in that communication chain. But the law is very clear that the public employees may not, on their own time, who paid public employees who are not elected, may not on their own time advocate for may not on public time advocate for an override. You can't have, your public employees out holding signs instead of working in their offices while they're getting paid. No, that's strictly prohibited. And you also, a non-elected public employee can never be involved in fundraising. Mm-hmm. And you cannot use public resources in any way for an override campaign. However, it's real important to know that public employees, and especially elected officials in the public environment, do not lose their right to free speech on this issue. And they can go out and play a very active role in an override campaign. And by the way, there is no open meeting law prescription against that either. The selectmen can talk to each other, because once they've placed it on the ballot, it is specifically no longer town business. It is the people's business, and they are people, and they can go out and work with each other and organize and take a lead. And that's the Office of Campaign Political Finance has issued very clear directives on that, very explicit. There's no question at all about that.
So the selectmen could be a lead on this.
They absolutely could.
How the populace will then react after this passes, let's say it's going to pass.
Well, I don't know whether it will or it won't.
Okay, well, let's say it does, and we
Yeah.
have a whole chunk of change to redo roads here in Belmont.
Yeah.
Who will take the lead then on that?
Well, the town has done a good job, I think, with the pavement management committee in defining how how roads will be treated, roads at different levels of traffic and so forth. So that was something when the last overrides failed, we created this committee, and they did a very nice job in defining how different levels of road, what do they require curbs, do they not require curbs? These are big, huge cost factors. I mean, the curbs in a road can be bigger than the asphalt itself. Granite is very expensive. So when do you use granite? When do you not use granite? When do you redo the sidewalks, et cetera, et cetera? Those kinds of questions have all been really mapped out in a very nice way. One of the things that I think is an important conversation is what kinds of roads do you prioritize? In my view, the town should prioritize the highest traffic roads. Because I think that if
your school streets and your pleasant streets and
yeah, I mean
the avenues into and out of Belmont.
Absolutely, because that's what's everybody's experience. Now, even if you live in Belmont, you're going to spend 90% of your driving time on those major roads.
Right.
And if we clean those roads up, the complaints are going to go away, I believe. But the current plan, I think, sort of leaves a fair amount of flexibility on that and does not define a distinct priority on the highest traffic roads.
You've probably heard this a lot from your constituents, so
Yeah.
I hate to add my voice to it, but
Yeah.
the roads are horrible. I mean, I drive along School Street, and I literally feel like my car's going to fall apart.
School is rough. But as selectman, as state representative,
Yes.
this is one of my highest priorities, is to move along the major state road projects in Belmont. So Pleasant Street is one, and
Yeah.
I've spent the last more than 10 years involved in trying to keep that project moving, and we're finally getting towards the end of that. And I think we're likely to complete that in the middle of this summer. The final nice coat of asphalt will go down, and that'll be a beautiful road. The next big one, that's $8 million. We're talking about a couple of $1 million a year or $3 million a year on roads. That project is $8 million. That's worth several years of roads expending. I mean, historically, recently, the town's only been spending $1 million a year to $2 million a year. So,
To patch.
to do some major roads. We've done some major roads. But so Pleasant Street is huge, and the next one is Trapello Road. That's a $13 million project right now. So
Yeah.
that's going to be
So that's on the boards.
That's on the boards. The town has been working on it hard. We're probably $500,000 into design on that project. I'm working very hard with the town, collaborating with the town to get that project approved by what's called the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is this agency that has the authority to approve these ballot questions. To approve the major roads projects.
And then, okay, with a wonderful new road, don't you think that Trapello Road would then be a more attractive place for businesses to come?
Absolutely. It's a central priority.
So
of
it's
economic
the chicken and the egg thing, with the roads. It's like, give us good roads and you may get more businesses.
On a statewide basis, the quality of infrastructure is one of the things that matters to businesses. And that is why, and to residents and perception of the neighborhood. So I have strongly perceived the Trapello Road project as a top economic development priority for the town. And one of the good things is that the Metropolitan Area Planning Council has rated this project highly as an economic development priority. So they've kind of respected our judgment that this is a high priority from an economic development standpoint.
Well, that's good to know. And also, there's Deval Patrick's Bridges and Roads. No, Bridges, just the Bridges bond bill, right?
No, there's a lot of roads in there, too. I mean,
Are there a lot of roads in there?
Yeah.
So that may help us. That may trickle over.
I suppose we don't have a lot of roads, bridges, but
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, we don't have bridges. That's a statewide problem.
Recently, a letter did appear in the paper about you from an Art Peters on Selwyn Road,
I noticed that.
where he questioned your voting on various issues. And I wondered, for instance, he said that you voted no on an amendment providing an additional $150 million in lottery aid to cities and towns to be used at their discretion. Like, let's just take that one thing that he cited. Why? Well, tell me.
One of the things you have to understand is how things work in the House of Representatives. the leadership of the House and the Democrats in the House actually have to balance a budget.
Yeah.
Whereas the Republicans in the House can throw out amendments that say this would be wonderful. So it's a sort of a standard.
I getcha.
Every time.
So I
every
getcha.
every budget debate, every major debate.
So you're fending off those
totally unrealistic.
nasty Republicans.
Well, they're not nasty. They're very nice.
No, I know.
They're very nice, and what they're doing is making us take votes that will then be put in the newspaper, and people will ask a question and say, "What's this guy voting against local aid? What's the matter with him? Is he crazy?" Yeah, of course.
So it works that way.
Yeah. Oh no, it's as simple as that.
Well, that's really interesting for us to know.
No. It's every major debate. There's going to be some votes like that where it's like, of course we'd like to send another $150 million to the cities and towns, but in reality we don't have it. Of course, another $500 million would be great for education aid, but no, we don't have that.
Okay, Art Peters of Selwyn Road, you got that? There's stuff working there that we don't understand.
Yeah.
Well,
it's simple. It is what it is. You do understand it.
We don't have much time left, but I do want to get in the fact that you are running again for office.
Yes, thank you.
And there is going to be an ice cream social this Sunday at the VFW Hall, and it's from 2 to 4. And where are you getting your ice cream from?
Well, actually, it's been a subject. We've been working on that. We want to do something that people will understand as fiscally responsible.
Okay.
So we might not have chosen our first choice on that, but I think we're going to have some very nice ice cream.
Okay.
It's going to be a nice party, and I've always liked to be back at the VFW. And by the way, this is not a fundraising event. This is just a thing that everybody can come and we can talk, and it should be a nice party.
Do you know if you have an opponent yet?
I don't.
You
don't. I don't know that we'll know soon enough.
Also, many banks have been robbed in Belmont. 2 on Tuesday, between 2 and 4. Where were you on Tuesday between 2 and 4?
I'm not sure, but my memory doesn't go back that far. But I will tell you this: it's all about heroin addiction.
Okay.
It's all about heroin addiction. When you see these robberies everywhere, it's always heroin addiction.
It's very sad.
It's a sad, sad, dangerous thing.
And that's it for Live with Will Brownsberger, Office Hours Live. And Will, we'll see you at your fundraiser this Sunday.
Did you just strike that? It's not a fundraiser.
Oh,
it's
sorry.
a nice party. There will
It's
be no
a nice party.
There will be
It's
no
not a
solicitation of
fundraising.
funds at this party. It's a party for
Just
everybody.
come and eat the ice cream.
That's it. There you go. Thank you.